time for a cool change. I know that it's time for a cool change.
It's time to get back to the basics. Boat buying basics, that is. We took a little bit of a break and did some other videos, but I really want to stay on track with this series because I believe there are a lot of people that could use the information. And I'm trying to break it down into a step-by-step process, which is what the book does, chapter by chapter, the different phases of buying a boat. So last time we talked about looking at boats and keeping a checklist. I have that checklist that I can send you on, all the things that you like and don't like, and what your observations are, how to avoid information overload. So if you missed that, you can go back to the last boat buying basics video. So once you do all this, how do you actually decide? Um, and this is really the part of the process that I kind of love the most because boat buying and selling is a very emotional thing. And if you're not in touch with that, if you're not in touch with your own emotions about it, and if you're not in touch with the fact that it is an emotional process, you're probably maybe not ready to own a boat. And one of the things that people really try to do, and coaches, instructors, brokers, a lot of people, and myself too. I'm a very logic oriented person as well, and if I think somebody is going to make a bad decision for themselves, I'm not there to be the moral police. I'm not there to tell you, well, you must like this boat and you must not like that boat, or this boat is perfect for you. I'm there to make it happen and get you into the boat that you want. But one of the things that you'll hear all the time, which is a little bit of a myth, is that if you fall in love with a boat, the first boat you fall in love with, you should always walk away. And I get why people give this advice. And from a pragmatic sense, it makes a lot of sense. Um, but, that works in a situation where there are a lot of boats on the market. Now, there are a lot of boats on the market right now, but if you want something very, very specific, um, let's say you're looking for a Katie Krogan sailboat, or something that there just isn't a whole lot of out there, you may never find something if you walk away from the first one you fall in love with. You need to approach it with a open mind, and being ready to be educated about it on the survey, and also know that it's not perfect. But if you're looking for a Catalina 42 or an Island Packet 40, there are a lot of those out there. So you can take your time a little bit more. And I've said this really kind of is a buyer's market, but good boats are hard to find. And a lot of the people that we work with are looking for cruising boats and looking for center cockpits, and looking for, family cruising boats, and, looking to make offshore passages. And a lot of the older sort of classic plastic sailboats that I grew up loving are in pretty bad shape right now. So if you find something that's been, redone, and you kind of love it, think twice about walking away from it because it might be gone by the time you realize it was the best thing out there. One example of a rare boat is a Kaufman 51 that we have listed right now. That is not a boat that there are a lot of out there. It's a Kaufman Sky 51 boat built to sail around the world. So, if you're looking for something very specific and rare like that, you definitely don't want to run away from it. Now, this boat needs a little bit of cosmetic work. It's priced accordingly. It's actually priced really well. You can click on the QR code if you're curious, but this is the same, design, very similar boat to the boat that John Crutchmer, who is a very well-respected maritime author and coach and all that, has done tons of offshore sailing on, and he takes people on training trips offshore on his Kaufman 47. But this is an example of a rare boat. I can usually tell when somebody falls in love with a boat, and I can tell that because I've been doing this myself, and for a long time, buying and selling my own boats, and I know how I feel when I walk down the dock. When I saw my Columbia 28 for the first time, and that was when I was like 21, and it was the very first boat that I um, lived on and owned as an adult. I knew walking down the dock, I knew before I stepped aboard my Island Packet 35 that I also lived aboard in St. Augustine with my daughter. We moved aboard when she was 7. Um, I had actually had that boat listed as a brokerage boat for a while, and every time I showed it, I would go sit on it and kind of like envision myself there, before the showing, after the showing. I usually go and turn things on and, collect my thoughts and check on the boat and all that before showing. But when the time came, the boat was still on the market, and I was like, hey, Mr. Boat Owner, who was also a friend at that point, what can we do? So make sure you fall in love with the boat. Aesthetics are important. You have to look at your boat and think it's pretty. Um, and that's just a human nature thing. So let's go back to the lists in this book and the viewing log and all that. There are a few deciding factors that I've listed that are things that you just kind of want to like consider and go through your checklist when you're trying to make that decision. Or if your heart says one thing and your brain says another thing, look at these questions and answer these questions, and let them sort of guide you. I'm a big fan of the pros and cons checklists. That's, they work. Anyway, so deciding factors. How well does the boat match up with my needs list? Well, if you're looking for a boat to cross an ocean with, you may not want to buy a Catalina 22. Now, you could cross an ocean in a Catalina 22, but that's a beginning learning trailer sailor. So that's an extreme example, but go back and look at your original sort of wants and needs list at this point. How does it make me feel? Have you ever gone on a boat or in a house or something and just felt ick and knew there was some reason why you didn't want it? Um, yeah. So, how does it make me feel? Do I like this space? Can I see myself living in this space? Is it aesthetically pleasing? There we go again. I like pretty boats. And if I'm shopping for a boat and if I'm helping somebody shop for a boat, I want them to think that their boat is pretty. Can it do the things I want it to do? Well, your Catalina 22 probably can't cross an ocean with a crew of 6. Um, how does my crew like it? Now, your crew is, your kids, your partner, whoever is sailing with you. Make sure everybody sees the boat before you make a commitment, because it's a recipe for disaster if one person likes the boat and another one doesn't. And there's compromise involved there. It's always going to be a little bit of compromise, but that's a discussion that you can have and that the broker can kind of have with you. We're sort of coaches too. So, can I afford it? Obviously, a very good question. If there are ways to have it financed, we'll probably be able to sort of send you in that direction. You'd be surprised at the boats that you can finance. A lot of people think, oh, I can only finance a brand new boat. Not true. So, and then of course, not every boat's going to be financed, and but that again is a conversation. Um, will I feel safe on the boat? Super important. Different boats move differently. An island packet is a heavy, solid motion, whereas a Beneteau is a lot more lightweight, a lot more sprightly. But with me, I'd feel more comfortable and safer on the island packet. Um, Personal thing. Are there any major red flags, such as hurricane damage or a bunch of bad reviews of this boat or whatnot? How motivated are the sellers? Right now, it is kind of a buyer's market, so sellers are typically pretty motivated, and you just never know what's going on in somebody's life. I always tell people, if you like the boat, make an offer. You don't know what they're going to say. The worst thing they could say is no, and everybody survives, and you come back with a counter offer, or they come back with a counter offer and you go through the negotiation process, but you can't start the process unless you make an offer. So, um, does the broker think this is the right boat for me? No, we're not, you know, we are not the end all be all opinion, obviously, of whether something is the right boat for you, but you've told us what you want, and we're working with your best interests at heart. And I've talked people out of buying boats, so um, that's what an honest broker will do. Is it insurable? Again, most boats are insurable for some type of insurance, even if it's just liability. A lot of older boats are only insurable for liability, but that still helps you in a marina situation. How well does the brand age in general? I always kind of laugh at this because I'm like, oh, some people age better, some boats age better. And I look at this because I see a lot of different brands, and if the gel coat is chalky, or cracks, has spider cracks or whatever, after 10 years, then this boat is probably not going to hold up that well. There are probably other things that aren't holding up that well on it. So, a lot of the older, heavier built boats hold up a lot better than some of the newer ones. So, just something to think about. Value, of course, too. Does the brand age well in terms of value? A boat is an investment in your happiness and your quality of life. It is never a financial investment, and I'm sorry if you expect it to be. But it's just simply not. However, there are boats that are going to hold their value better than others. So, hope this helps out, and reach out to me if you have any questions, and can't wait to get you aboard.
Time for a cool change. I know that it's time for a cool change.